China Kites began it. Swift fictioned it. Wells imagined it. Our Civil War solidified it. Austria initiated it. Billy Mitchell predicted it. Churchill fooled Hitler with it. The U.S. nuked Japan via it. In Korea, Soviets outclassed us with it. During the Cold War, we spied on it. In the Mideast, we slew with it. And yet again, the siren song of easy wins from the air titillates Trump and masturbates MAGA, deflating his no more made-up Mideast war declaration, even as he spoke the words. But down through the ages, from centurions to special forces, we soldiers know the terrible truth. Wars are won only and always by boots on the ground, by grit and gore in the mud and blood. But Machiavellian mission creep begins in and is as empty as the air. Ex-DEA and DIA, retired SOCOM soldier, deep state targeted, turned whistleblower, sabotaged and slandered, betrayed and saved, rejected and redeemed. As teacher and truth teller, now America's intelligence officer, resisting tyranny in obedience to God, welcoming like-minded patriots, training next generations to infill corrupted agencies and St. Martin them, inside out, bottom up, as co-opters in Christ. Welcome, I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point. Welcome, everybody. As you can see, I'm doing a lot better. Thank you for your prayers and concerns and all your advice. This is not a breaking show today, as the last couple have, and I really appreciate all of you tuning in to those breaking shows and spreading the word. Please like, share, and subscribe to me on Rumble and X, especially. You could do Facebook too if you want, and YouTube, although there's not much there, but I'm still very throttled. And that's because I'm trying to tell you the ruthless truth. So today, the title is U.S. Troops Out of Iraq and Into Iran. It's almost as if they are on schedule. And overall intelligence assessment is all indicators point to an invasion, which I am against, as it will be costly in U.S. troop lives and ultimately unsuccessful, just as it was in Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Somalia, Syria, and I could go on and on. But we're also going to talk about LEVIN loses in Kent debate. Why is LDS funding Utah mosques? TPUSA deletes KIRK'S anti-Israel casts. And the 5-day truce that Trump has enacted is equal to the 5-day troop deployment completion. Israel has canceled Palm Sunday in Jerusalem. That is an epic and telltale sign. And did MOSSAD false flag the Texas oil refinery? And finally, why did SEC boss Margaret Ryan abruptly resign? So we will look into all of those. But first, recall that Iran shot down a U.S. F-35. The F-35 was supposed to be invincible and give us air dominance, which we do not have. For decades, since the Korean War, where MiGs outfought U.S. jets, the U.S. has dominated the air battle space. No longer. This is a historic and strategic loss for the DoD. This is an indicator of the failing American empire. The U.S. has failed to achieve air dominance. The U.S. has failed to protect its Mideast bases and Israel from Iranian missiles and drone strikes, both of which continue to devastate Israel and the U.S. bases although you don't hear much about it because both Israel and the U.S. military are censoring heavily. The carrier Ford has been forced to retreat due to sailor sabotage and maybe even Iranian drones. The U.S. does not control the sea battle space. The straits remain closed to U.S. and Israel. The Iranians have not risen up to be Trump's boots on the ground as Trump requested. The U.S. does not dominate the airspace, does not dominate the sea space, hasn't done anything about the at least 20 Iranian submarines in the Strait, submersible drones, and of course, mines. Iran's strategy is working. America's is not. The U.S. is losing. The fallen republic is replaced with a failing empire. And as an American retired soldier, it gives me no pleasure to say that, but I am going to give you ruthless truth and intelligence. Meanwhile, Israel has struck the South Pars field again. The South Pars gas field, jointly owned by Qatar and Iran, is the largest liquid natural gas field in the world. It's critical to Iran's economy, providing up to 80% of the natural gas. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's double, or AI, because I still assess that he is dead, stated Israel acted alone. And this is against Trump's orders. So Trump initially claimed he had no prior knowledge of the first strike, calling it an act of anger, but later acknowledged it had been coordinated. And so this strike, too, was likely coordinated. So was Trump lying or not informed? Neither answer is reassuring to Trump and whoever is running Israel's war. Intelligence indicates Israel is again striking the South Pars LNG airfield, natural gas field, despite Trump's order for no more strikes. Given that Israel is still hiding Bibi's death and Iran calling out Trump's secret talks with Iran a lie, it appears that the U.S.-Israel war is being run on emotion, not factual logic, and is spiraling out of control. And that is because it is eschatological war, a religious war, a war of belief. So Iran is winning and escalating the war in my intelligence assessment. But the Diego Garcia strikes are not likely Iran. They did not claim that they did them. It is likely, intelligence indicates, Israeli submarines. There's no reason for Iran to waste missiles that far away on Diego Garcia, that's south. Diego Garcia has nothing to do with this fight, really. But if Israel, via false flag missiles launched from their submarines, can convince Europe that it was Iran, then it means that Iran missiles can reach Europe. And so this is a false flag dangle, I believe, to drag Europe into the fight, but it does not seem to be working very well. And then again, U.S. troops have completed their withdrawal from Iraq. And the important thing to remember here is this withdrawal has been going on since 2024, and it is just wrapping up now. The U.S.-led coalition combat mission against ISIS formally ended September 2025. As of January 18, 2026, Iraq announced the complete withdrawal of U.S.-led coalition forces. This is a major shift, though a limited U.S. military presence continues in the autonomous Kurdistan region, which is debatable if there are still special forces there or not. There were approximately 2,500 U.S. troops stationed in Iraq as of 2023 to 2025, primarily advisory. But with more attacks happening, all the troops are being pulled out of Iraq, as are many of the bases in the Mideast. Remember, this is one of the conditions Iran has set for ending the war, that the U.S. pull out of their military bases in the Mideast that surround Iran. So while Trump may not be admitting to Iranian conditions, it certainly seems like he is acceding to them. Take a quick look here. Aromadoc wanted to mention to one of your locals videos, your wife was showing the different scripture verses over the different entryways of your house. Thought that was a great idea. Yes, thank you. First, we blessed the grounds with Apache cattail pollen. Then we blessed all the doorways with scripture. And then finally, when the house is almost done, and it's getting there, we will put up a mezuzah and also a cross to finish it. Hedgeman, glad to see you're on the mend, sir. Yeah, me too. I am better. The cough is pretty much gone. Why can't we see this pattern? We do it over and over again. It's a psyop that is promulgated through promotion of the military, of the CIA, of the FBI. And there's still CIA, FBI shows out there. And most people simply don't pay attention. But I think more people are waking up to that. Here's an email from a near peer that, I really appreciate everybody who watches the show. But when a near peer whom I worked with, and that means somebody who was federal law enforcement, as I was DEA and military, it's a small crowd. But this near peer says, you're better versed in theology than I am, but here's what I see. Netanyahu's declared it a religious war, but that means good versus evil, God versus Satan. It does not include Israel against the world. If God is large and in charge, guiding us, leading us, protecting us, it means that in following the right path, we should recognize positions and players. So if God kicks the crack out of Satan, then God is kicking the snot out of Israel, which logically means Israel and Netanyahu are Satan. Well, I'd say anti-Christic, certainly. God is merciful. So 3 U.S. F-15s and a couple of Marine F-35s get shot down with no aircrew injury. Conversely, 3 Israeli F-16s and several Israeli F-35s get shot down and their air crews don't survive. That is an interesting point. 5 incredibly lucky missile shots take out the Aegis Ashore, Patriot, and THAAD battery defense radars. No more U.S. supplied anti-missile umbrella for Netanyahu. Again, this is a near peer saying this. Netanyahu orders Thrumplestein to send a carrier strike group into the Gulf War, in which we have no dog in the hunt, putting the whole fleet within a range of Iranian missiles. Then 2 missiles miss their mark, and the whole fleet pulls back 500 miles out of range. No core and missile umbrella for Israel. Netanyahu orders Trump to take Karg Island. The Tripoli is at the top of the list, but the Tripoli can't do amphibious landings. Remember, I talked about this in detail. Tripoli has no well deck, the only amphibious craft that never had a well deck, because the Marines are delivered by Osprey, by H-53 helicopter. So you need a division to take an airfield. So Trump looks to the 82 Segundo, that's 82nd in Spanish, currently supporting Ecuador. To move the 82nd required about 50 C-17s and 100 tankers and complete air superiority over the target. every move countered by Sky 6 Actual, talking about God. Netanyahu orders Trumpelstein to send the Ford into the Red Sea to do Satan's dirty work against Lebanon and Syria. The Ford did a Middle East tour with no crew swap, leading directly to the Caribbean debacle with no crew swap, followed by a redirect back to the Middle East and with no crew. Remember, they've been at sea. Well, they haven't been home at port, so they've missed births, deaths, funerals, Christmases. So the point here of my near peer is that God seems to be protecting us. So I find that very interesting. Now, getting to the LDS, Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, has donated $25,000 to build Utah's largest mega mosque, a Utah Islamic center, and other mosques in the state, and is now exposed for financing Hamas contractors. In March 23, 2026, LDS Charities, which is the church's humanitarian arm, funneled support to terror-aligned Islamic groups. They partnered with Med Global, an Illinois-based charity that openly boasts of collaborating directly with Hamas Ministry of Health in Gaza. Med Global received $200,000 from LDS in 2017 and $1.9 million in 2019. Rama Worldwide, which is a Michigan charity, signed contracts with senior Hamas officials, including designating terrorist Ghazi Hamad, who vowed to repeat the October 7th attacks. Internal Hamas documents from 2022 confirm Rama's Gaza director is affiliated with Hamas. Aid workers in Gaza wore jackets bearing both the LDS Charities and Rama logos. They were in uniform together, along with the logo of RIHS, a Kuwaiti group designated by the U.S. Treasury for supporting al-Qaeda. So here's the U.S. government and the Israelis and the LDS supporting Hamas and al-Qaeda. And of course, Obama started ISIS. LDS has listed Rama as a major partner for over a decade with joint projects in Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, and beyond. LDS Charities funded Bayadar Association, a Gaza-based group that coordinates directly with Hamas ministries and whose staff have publicly praised Islamic Jihad terrorists. LDS supported Bayadar welfare projects in Gaza 2014 to 2016, including untraceable cash grants, which is a terrorist recruitment method. The church has long collaborated with Islamic Relief, Muslim Brotherhood-linked designated terror organizations by the UAE. This is the same church that promotes interfaith friendship while funding mosque construction in conservative Utah, where conversions are surging. So I'm not ignoring the fact of Islamification of America, but I'm much more concerned with the already Zionization of America. And of course, why is LDS doing that? Well, the LDS is heavily infested in the FBI. See, I've worked with lots of Mormons, and while I'm saying LDS is not, and this is nothing new, Christian, I've worked with lots of good LDS FBI agents, soldiers as well. So I'm not saying, while I'm saying LDS is a false Christian religion, not all Mormons are bad, just as I say Islam is a false religion, but not all Muslims are bad. But why is LDS so heavily involved? Well, that goes into several reasons. One is their young men always go off and do foreign missions. So that's a great cover for intelligence and a great experience, and why FBI, CIA would want to recruit them later. And when they're going to foreign missions, they also have to learn how to speak the language of the country they're going to. So again, that's a plus for the U.S. government. So I assess that the U.S. deep state is funding the domestic religious war to distract from the U.S. Zionization via LDS. And so I've said that for a long time. And I think the timing is very crucial right now as well. All the things I'm talking about today point to indicators of an invasion, unfortunately. I'm hopeful that that is not the case, but the intelligence certainly looks that way. And briefly, to restate my position on Mormonism, which I've talked about in sermons many times, and again, I'm just giving ruthless truth, is all major Christian denominations, Catholic Church, Eastern Orthodox Church, Baptists, do not consider LDS Christian. And certainly Christ Connection Chaplaincy does not consider them Christians. And the reason is because of their doctrine. The LDS deny several core doctrines of classical Christianity, leading mainstream Christian scholars and denominations to conclude that Mormonism is not a Christian denomination in the traditional sense. By the way, Christ Connectionism is. So some of those are the nature of God. LDS theology teaches a polytheistic view where God the Father, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Ghost are three separate beings with distinct physical bodies. This directly contradicts the Trinity doctrine of classical Christianity. Divinity of Christ. While Mormons affirm Jesus as divine, they teach that he is a created being, the firstborn spirit of God the Father, rather than the eternal, uncreated Son of God. That aligns. This aligns with Arianism, a heresy long ago condemned by the Church. So, if that's confusing to you, the Nicene Creed says, "Begotten, not made." That is, Jesus was always around. God the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit were always around. That's how, by the way, Adam walks with God in the garden. Moses sees God's face. Further, LDS teaches the doctrine of salvation is achieved through faith plus works, obedience to church ordinances. This contradicts the Protestant and classical Christian doctrine of salvation by grace alone. In Scripture, the Church accepts the Bible, but also includes a whole nother Book of Mormon doctrine and covenants and the Pearl of Great Price. They believe the Bible is incomplete and mainstream. And I've actually shown way back where, for example, they said Isaiah was incomplete, but the Dead Sea Scrolls uncovered the oldest Isaiah scriptures yet and showed that they were complete, and the things that Joseph Smith added were later on. And a lot of scholars have examined those and shown that his language was incorrect as well. Finally, atonement. Mormons believe that Jesus' atonement was necessary, but not sufficient alone. So I'm not attacking Mormonism. I know and have known and liked lots of Mormons. I'm just giving you the ruthless truth. So why does that align with the government? Why does the government like Mormonism, but goes after Catholicism? Because Mormonism at its core is anti-Christic. That is, it does not put God and Yeshua, Jesus, first, and therefore government can be inserted in there. Where the Catholic Church, which is not Zionist, like Protestant Christian evangelical Zionists are, goes against what the government is trying to accomplish, which again is a domestic religious war, also fueling a racial war, because lots of Muslims in America are black, to create a problem that the government can then pretend to solve. So I hope that is clear. If you have questions on that, please put them in the Rumble chat or in the X chat. I'm monitoring both of those right now. And also, by the way, please go to BeReady123.com, BeReady123.com. Use Prather for your 10% off. You can get everything from a state-of-the-art Iridium 9555 sat phone, which it looks like there are false flags heading, which means there'll be comms cuts. You can also get one of these great EMF beanies, which is the corollary to the traditional tinfoil hat that I used to run into when I was interviewing folks as a duty agent. So BeReady123.com or sat123.com as well. Even more so, the Palm Sunday procession in Jerusalem has been canceled, according to Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzavalla. The very streets where Jesus Christ was welcomed with Hosanna for centuries will not happen. So again, this feeds into the indicators that there is going to be an invasion. Of course, we aren't going to see Israeli troops on the ground. But again, it's very important because this is essentially a religious war, a belief system war, which all modern wars are now tribal and belief system based. And people rarely change their belief systems or their tribe because they are inculcated in those beliefs at an early age, and they mistake belief for faith. Something, again, I've talked about at Christ Connection Chaplaincy, where you can go find my sermons at christchaplaincy.com and the sermons of the others. But again, this may be answering your question. ROPO is, why can't we see this pattern? We do it over and over again. So the largest oil refinery just experienced a fire, and I think the timing is very suspect. Will the FBI conclude Iran was responsible in about 5 days when the troop invasion deployment are completed? We will see. A large explosion and subsequent fire occurred at the Valero refinery in Port Arthur, Texas on Monday, March 23rd, around 7:20 p.m. The incident triggered a shelter-in-place order. Multiple reports confirmed that no injuries were reported, and all 770 refinery employees were accounted for. So it looks like a very controlled sabotage arson. So the question then is why? And why hasn't the FBI come out and said, well, it's the Iranians, and why now? So there may be some debate happening. Hopefully, there are advisors of Trump telling him that the ground invasion of Iran would ultimately be unsuccessful and extremely costly in lives, and is very unpopular. And that's probably the main thing politically, very unpopular. So we will see. But why they haven't announced that now is strange. So maybe it really is just a fire, but the timing is very suspect. Further, another indicator of invasions happening is the chief enforcement officer for the SEC, Margaret Ryan, left last week. She resigned. And she resigned because she had wanted to investigate Trump and the Trump family more for trades. So remember, Trump was escalating the war, and then he suddenly said that he was in negotiations with the Iranians, which the Iranians have denied. It's hard to tell who is lying about that. But somebody purchased a large amount of stock futures and sold or shorted crude futures at that moment, and they made a lot of money just minutes later. There's a lot of speculation that this was Baron Trump or some part of the Trump organization. So that's insider trading, of course, but it won't be investigated as usual. Further, drones have swarmed a nuclear bomber base, exposing potential threat to U.S. air crews. Barksdale Air Force Base is a major U.S. strategic bomber installation in northwest Louisiana. And it just experienced an unusually serious number of unauthorized drone. So is this another false flag by the Israelis or Ukrainians? Because remember, Ukraine is thought to be the new Israel. Israel sent Tavor bullpup rifles to the Azov Nazi battalions in Ukraine. Ukraine has very advanced drones. Why does Ukraine have very advanced drones? Because they got them from the CIA and DARPA. Remember the advanced drones around KIRK'S death. That's why I think likely John Michael Cullen was disappeared. So again, there is no announcement yet. Maybe there's going to be an announcement that this was Iran as it gets closer to the 5 days. That would seem to be making the most sense to me. Remember, too, that with the two setup assassinations attempts, the golf course and Butler, clearly I assessed that the government had to be in on it. The Secret Service is not that incompetent. There's the Secret Service moving the reporters around. They don't get Trump off the X. Then the guy who doesn't get Trump off the X, Secret Service guy, gets promoted. So all of that led me to assess that the government was in on it. But now it looks like, again, the intelligence indicates that the FBI saying that the Iranians were in on it, that intelligence came from Israel, from Shin Bet or Mossad, with, of course, no real backing for that. So that was setting up Trump. That was a psyop directed at Trump to begin to see Iran as trying to kill him. Now, if you remember at the time, I talked a lot about this, is why Trump. Trump is very pro-Israel, but Iran had not been involved in anything like that. They do have terrorist cells. I'm certainly admitting that. They were certainly backing Hamas on October 7th, although October 7th was a stand down, a 7-hour stand down. But this was to begin to make Trump think that he had to go after Iran and he had to assassinate their leaders before they got to him. That is another separate psyop. And of course, Israel and the Israeli lobby has spent millions and decades psyoping and prepping the human terrain, the mental terrain in America. That's what the whole Protestant evangelical Christian Zionist movement is about as well. So again, all indicators are that the invasion, unfortunately, with ground troops is going to take place. I'll pause there for a note here. Since we have a broken voting system, even voting for a representative doesn't look like the Dems will allow that. Midterms will be Democratic with Trump impeached again, back in SCOTUS. That could be. Certainly, it doesn't look like it was too big to rig. It looks like Trump made a deal because all of the corrupt voting machine systems are still in place. Nothing's been done about that. I see stories all the time about officials arrested for voter fraud, but we never again see anything really happening. We certainly don't see the Attorney General doing anything, the FBI doing anything, just these stories, and then another congressional investigation showing up as well. In April, National Guard per state. Is Trump trying to secure elections or suspend elections for wartime as the war continues to go very poorly? Pete Hegseth is a Zionist. Yes, Hegseth is obviously a Zionist. He's got the big Crusader 4 crosses tatted on him. Or is Israel running our voting system now? Yes, that all appears to be the case. There has not been any real reform, and the SAVE Act has not gone through. Or if I'm wrong about that, somebody please correct me. But the that is what is indicated at this time. So we've covered U.S. troops out of Iraq and into Iran almost on a schedule. LEVIN loses in a Kent debate where Mark LEVIN had Joe Kent on. Of course, Joe Kent is being accused of leaking. Joe Kent said in the interview he denied leaking anything. There are allegations from various folks, including George Webb, that he's leaking to Candace Owens. I don't believe that. I just don't see that. I know from when I was set up, I'm going along as I go from DEA special agent hero to zero in a break, and there was no change in my character. It was just they wanted to kill the message by slandering the messenger. So therefore, they made up all the sexual stuff about me and the cult leader stuff about me, which I've talked about many times. And that's, by the way, when I was much more ill. I had 2 shoulder surgeries, and the second one, I got an infection. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I had a fever for 3, and I was much sicker than I was now. And of course, I was being slandered for decades by a cyber bully, gaslighter, Jared Armitage, all of that. So Kent clearly won the debate. LEVIN got angry, talked over him, and even cut him off and went to a commercial. So I see Kent, and I don't agree with Kent on everything. When he came on the Prather Point, I pressed him to hypothesize that the government was training Antifa, because he did admit that they were professionally trained, but he wouldn't say who. And I talked to him off camera about the special military intelligence tier 1 unit he was part of, which he didn't give any ground on. And I still only talk about peripherally. So I just don't see that. I think he is very moral and conscientious and is a very advanced warrior, because, again, he served in the 2nd Ranger Battalion, which is elite, then 5th Special Forces, which is even more elite, then the Tier 1 Special Missions Intelligence Reconnaissance Unit, which is even more elite, and then CIA Special Activities Division Ground Branch, which is equally elite with the Tier 1 organization, but certainly better funded. So why did LEVIN have Kent on to lose? Well, he was probably ordered to by his Mossad Israeli masters to try and kill the messenger, to kill the message. But I don't think that works. Again, so across the board, the U.S. war effort is failing. And, my big push here, like Tucker's, is to convince Trump to call off the ground invasion and save lives, because, Cargo Island can be taken at a high price. War pig Lindsey Graham is saying another Iwo Jima, but can it be held? And I don't think it can be held in this way. So, and then, of course, we just look at everything that's happened since World War II, which we won, is the deep state never allows us to win. Korea is a tie. Vietnam is a loss. Even though we win every battle, we lose the war. Same thing with Syria. Same thing with Iraq, which we went in under false pretenses. I remember very well talking to, because I was at DI headquarters there, I was talking to my peers who were actually going out with the scientist teams looking for the WMD. And I'd hear back, weekly, nope. And so the same lies that Netanyahu and the Israelis were telling about Iraq, they are now telling about Iran. Iran is, of course, wants to have the option of a nuclear weapon, but they don't want, I think, really to invest in having one, and they are not going to be able to do that anyway. But Israel wants Iran completely disarmed so it can be devastated, as it has done in Gaza and as it is doing in Lebanon. So, Aroma Doc, nothing has been done on the SAFE Act. Okay. I'll still vote, but rather than wasting time on winning an election, voting our way out of this sounds like things are so broken. We all need to be ready to resist control over our sovereignty. Yes, and that's exactly what I'm saying in my opening when I say I'm training next generations to infiltrate corrupted agencies and St. Martin them inside out, bottom up. And that's actually a summarization of the strategic mission of Team America, which is a very difficult task. I ask a lot of Team America, and they are very dedicated, anonymous volunteers working to do that. But that's the answer that I see. And it's a spiritual answer. Just as Rome was never conquered, but co-opted by the blood of the martyrs. And St. Martin, of course, was the Roman soldier turned Christian who refused to fight, but was serving with Rome. So infiltrating corrupt organizations from the ground up. And I think that is working very slowly. Stands for honor. My father ran a mass unit in Korea. He was always angry, but never speak about it. Yeah, if you don't know, the author of the book MASH hated the show MASH. And in the book, it says every once in a while, you got to punch a liberal in the nose just to stay in shape. Of course, the MASH show was a huge hit, but it was not popular with the author of the MASH book. I've seen some horrendous pictures of Tel Aviv. Do you believe that the city has truly been decimated? Yes, I believe Israel is being decimated. There's lots of intelligence. It's very difficult because there's propaganda from Israel, there's propaganda from America, there's propaganda from Iran. So I try to be very careful about the statements I'm making. But it's certainly the intelligence information analysis certainly indicates that Israel is being decimated, and they're spending a lot of time in bomb shelters, and the bomb shelters are overcrowded, and there was a lot of protests, some violent protests that are being put down where the Israelis themselves are against the war as well. So I think, again, the war is failing in Israel too, and leading more to regime change. This also aligns with scripture, eventually, where the whole world turns against Israel and Israel is destroyed, if you read Revelation. But the West should not be split on the issue of IRGC lunacy. I'm not sure what you mean by that. The IRCG seems to be carrying out a very disciplined, consistent war strategy of economic warfare and attrition, and it seems to be working. In fact, the other day, Trump said that regime change has been achieved. Technically, he's correct, because they've assassinated several leaders, and then the latest, the son was put in charge. So did the regime change? Well, yes, technically it did. So hopefully Trump saying these things now is that he is going to come to his senses and listen to some true military patriots, that the ground invasion would be costly and ultimately a failure. And he's not just setting things up. But looking back on past performance, all indicators are that he's just trying to set up the Iranians again. Roka, your voice held up really well on the SGT report. Glad to see it. Oh, I didn't even know that was out yet. Thanks for telling me that. Somebody please email me a link, jp@jeffreyprather.com, so I can publish that. Yeah, I did an interview with Sean at SGT the other day on exactly all of this. And I guess it just came out. I didn't even know that yet. Thank you, Roka Holmes, for that. Is it true they won't let non-Jews into the shelters? That is my understanding, although I don't know how they would be sorting people out during an air raid. Aromadoc, Hebrew media, I saw some Russian news about it. Other surrounding countries that managed to post footage Israel. Yeah, that is what I have seen as well. So again, Roca Holmes last night. Yeah. So I did do an interview with SGT, with Sean at SGT, an hour interview. My voice held up pretty good. It's holding up pretty good now, but I'll be wrapping up shortly here because again, I'm giving you, I think, what's important. I'm not just trying to fill time and space and waste your time. I spend about 4 to 5 hours for every show, trying to put together what concisely is going on. And so if you can, support the show. You can go to Locals and join Locals. You'll just get created news there, $9 a month. JeffreyPrather.locals.com, or if you want to interact with me, ask me questions, patreon.com/JeffreyPrather. At the $5 level, created news stories, 15 special resources, $25 a month, daily training videos, and you can join my martial arts class or my handgun martial arts class as well. To wrap up, the serial baby killer Gosnell is dead. So Kermit Gosnell was an abortion doctor in Philadelphia who performed late-term abortions. He was convicted of murder in 2011 when it was revealed that he had murdered babies who had survived the procedure, and not one, but multiple. It sounds like a horror movie, and there is a movie called Gosnell, and you should watch it. And I'll probably do a Patreon on it if I haven't already done one. But he was convicted of first-degree murder in the brutal killings of 3 infants born alive during illegal late-term abortions at his notorious House of Horrors clinic. He's died in prison at 85. He was serving 3 consecutive life sentences. He was black, by the way. And it's interesting because back when I had a radio show, I said that Black Lives Matter wasn't interested in black lives, just a couple of criminal black lives, George Floyd being one, Obama being the other, specifically pointing out individuals who I think are criminals for various reasons, not about their race, and ignoring the millions of black babies that were murdered, and in particular, the tens of thousands by Gosnell, who is also black. And of course, the radio station immediately called me racist, just like I guess some people are calling me anti-Semitic. So that's part of my sad story of being censored. Of course, after that, I went on YouTube, had 78,000 followers before I got censored there as well. So, we're supposed to pray for enemies, but that's a tough one to pray for. He had a 30-year killing spree and murdered thousands and was a monster. The journalist Anne McKinney, who extensively covered his 2013 trial and interviewed him in prison and co-authored a book, mentioned Gosnell was gone, but if we should take time to think of the thousands of innocents that lived for a short time. Think in particular baby boy A, who was so big that even Gosnell's workers were shocked by the barbarity of the killing and took a photo of him as he was murdered. And what he would do is he would snip the spinal cord of born alive babies that had survived the abortion procedure. And that, of course, is satanic child sacrifice for Moloch and Baal. And the Satanic Church has admitted that abortion is a sacrament of theirs. And Stand for Honor I've read the greatest proportion of babies aborted were Black. Yes. Well, somebody remind me, what's her name? The founder of Planned Parenthood, whole purpose was to abort Black babies. I can't think of her name right now, but she's actually quoted as saying, we can't talk about this, but this is what the real purpose is of that. We appreciate your time in this battle for the Mideast. I paid for 1 year. I'm so glad I did. You are a truth teller. Oh, thanks. Thanks so much for supporting the show. I really appreciate all your efforts. And if you want to talk to me regularly, then that's the comment section. You can also it's great because you'll talk to like-minded patriots and folks who are really tuned in as well. Margaret Sanger, thank you, Ropo. Yes, Margaret Sanger is quoted as saying, the real purpose of Planned Parenthood is to control the Black population. And of course, that's who gets aborted the most, and that's often who are supporting because of the PSYOPs. Again, intelligence is all about the PSYOPs. Isn't she Jewish? I don't know whether she's Jewish or not. Okay, so this is that's what I have for today. If there's any last questions, I will look here and make sure I am not excluding anybody. So then I will go ahead and wrap because I don't want to preserve my voice as I'm healing up, and I don't want to waste your time. Maria Abramovich is a spirit cooking witch, separate from Margaret Sanger. So we will lose the Iran war. As a retired patriot veteran of foreign war, I take no pleasure in saying this. When America goes to war, as an American soldier, I want us to win. But as America's intelligence officer, I have committed to telling the truth, no matter how hard or uncomfortable the truth is. And this is the ruthless truth. Even if Trump achieves regime change, we will lose. We won the revolution because Washington personally controlled intelligence. We won World War II because the OSS was military. Then the CIA was born, and we tied in Korea. Although we won every battle in Vietnam, we lost the war. Invasions like Panama and Venezuela are not wars. We lost Libya. We lost Syria. Even though we had regime change in Afghanistan and Ukraine, we lost in Afghanistan and have long been losing in Ukraine. And the Green Berets won the regime change within weeks, and we could have left. Because there are fourth-generation indigenous asymmetrical resistance wars like our revolution. It may take decades or even centuries, but homegrown resistance wars always win in the end. The invader tires and eventually departs. Iran-Persia is an ancient country, rich in national identity, with mountains full of fresh water, caves, and hides. Like Afghanistan or Russia, invaders are ultimately defeated by the terrain itself. To win, wars must be righteous, and no war contrived by Zionists, Hegseth, Rubio, Witkoff, and Kushner is righteous. But the cabal, as in Kabbalists, don't care about us winning, because American Protestant Zionists are still non-Jews, and both Christians of any stripe and Muslims are ultimately their enemies. Remember, freedom is never given. It is earned, fought for, won, and taken. So, take it.